What if I told you that there are 4 simple foods that can completely change the way you walk, and even make you forget those pains in your legs and joints? Sounds too good to be true? Well, experts have already confirmed this, and thousands of elderly people are walking again with more lightness and confidence thanks to these discoveries. Do you want to know what they are? Then pay attention, because this information can transform your daily life. Leg pain, joint pain, stiffness in the knees or hips. The discomfort might begin right after getting out of bed, or perhaps it appears at the end of the day, after an attempt to go for a walk. And even when we try to ignore it, it's there, silent or screaming, limiting steps, freedom, confidence. It's not uncommon for this to be accompanied by fatigue, swelling, weakness in the legs, or even tingling. The body gives signals, and these signals, however common they may be with age, should never be ignored. Because behind them may be conditions that worsen over time, and that can be prevented or eased with the right actions. But more than the physical discomfort, what often hurts the most is the emotional impact. The feeling of not being able to do what was once simple, the insecurity that appears when walking alone, the fear of falling, of needing help, of no longer being independent. Some people stop going out, avoid stairs, give up going to the market or even visiting family. And when pain joins fear, life shrinks. But listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you. It doesn't have to be this way. Your story doesn't need to follow this path. Just think about the example of Mrs. Tessa. She is 73 years old and for many months stopped going to the neighborhood market, something she had always done with joy. The pain in her knees was intense, and doctors said it was normal. They offered medications, but the side effects only worsened her daily life. She began to isolate herself, became sadder, quieter, until one day, talking with a friend who is also elderly, she heard about some simple changes in diet that were helping many people recover the pleasure of walking without pain. With guidance, she began to include certain foods on her plate and, in a few weeks, noticed that she was able to walk a little more each day. Today, she has returned to the market. She doesn't run, doesn't carry heavy bags, but she goes with confidence. And her happiness from having regained this little piece of life is something that touches the heart. This shows that, even when it seems difficult, there are ways back. And if you are also facing something similar, it's important to remember that this happens to many people, and it's not your fault. Aging brings natural changes to our bodies. That's true. But how we take care of these changes makes all the difference. Pain when walking can be linked to chronic inflammation, lack of nutrients that the body doesn't absorb as before, joint wear, or even poor circulation. None of this has to be definitive, because, just as the body changes over time, the way to nourish, strengthen, and protect it can also change. And that's where solutions that are natural, accessible, and effective come in. Solutions that don't depend on miracle formulas, but on correct information, consistent attitude, and choices made with care. The good news is that experts are increasingly focused on studying how diet can directly influence the health of joints, muscles, and nerves. We already know that what we put on our plates has a huge impact, not only on the heart and mind, but also on our movements, leg strength, knee flexibility, and stability when walking. This means that yes, there are foods that help the body reduce inflammation, recover, and gain more resistance. And the best part, they are simple, easy to find, and they really work. In fact, you will learn about these foods today. There are 4 that have been recommended by doctors and nutritionists precisely because they contribute to mobility, reduce pain, and restore quality of life. Before I tell you what they are, it's important for us to understand why so many people continue to suffer from pain when walking, even when trying to take care of themselves. Often, the focus goes straight to quick relief, like medications that mask the pain. But this doesn't treat the cause. Others try to avoid movement for fear of making things worse, but this can also bring more rigidity. Some believe that eating well is just a matter of maintaining weight or controlling cholesterol. But the truth is that certain foods have the power to act as true allies against premature aging of the joints. They are natural sources of anti-inflammatory substances, essential minerals and vitamins that the elderly body needs in greater amounts. It may seem like too beautiful a promise, but it's not an exaggeration. There are increasingly serious scientific studies showing that, with the right combination of nutrients, it's possible to reduce joint pain, improve joint lubrication, strengthen muscles, and even help with tissue regeneration. All of this begins on your plate. And we're not talking about complicated diets, expensive formulas, or hard-to-find foods. We're talking about basics done well: rice with something extra, supercharged salads, breakfast with more conscious choices. Small changes that, when made consistently, bring great results. And if you're now thinking that this might work for others but not for you, let me remind you of something very important. Your body has an immense capacity to recover. Even after years of feeling pain, improvement is possible. Even after months of difficulty, it's possible to walk with more lightness again. The key is to act with care, regularity, and the right kind of information. And that's exactly what you'll find here. Not miraculous promises, but guidelines that make sense, that respect your time, your pace, and that are already transforming many people's lives. I know it can seem frustrating to live with pain, and sometimes you feel like giving up, accepting that this is just how life is now. But listen to what I'm going to tell you with complete sincerity. Don't give up, because there's still time to improve. There's still time to feel pleasure in walking, in leaving the house, in doing what you enjoy. Science is on our side, and the right knowledge can open doors you never imagined possible anymore. And look, you don't need to do this alone. We're here to walk alongside you. But before revealing what these foods are that can change your routine, it's important to understand why this problem happens to so many people. Why medications don't always work as expected. Why certain food habits that seem harmless might be worsening your pain. And most importantly, how it's possible to turn this game around in a simple, natural, and effective way. Because many people are suffering unnecessarily without knowing that the solution might be inside their own kitchen. Stay calm, because in this video, you'll learn solutions that truly work. And most importantly, you'll understand how to apply them in your daily life, without complication, without stress, and with the certainty that you're taking an important step toward living with more autonomy, more comfort, and more joy. Let's discover this path together. The pain when walking, which seems to come suddenly, is actually the result of a slow and silent process that happens inside the body over the years. It's as if the gears that once worked perfectly were running out of oil, becoming worn, rusting. Over time, this wear on the joints becomes more evident, more uncomfortable, more limiting. The causes are diverse, but they all have something in common. They can be understood and combated with the right attitudes. When we talk about pain in the legs, knees, hips, or feet, we need to understand that we're dealing with a set of factors ranging from natural aging to daily habits that seem harmless, but are silently aggravating the problem. One of the most frequent causes is joint wear, especially of the cartilage, which is the tissue that covers the ends of bones. This cartilage functions as a cushion, protecting the bone from the impact of movements. Over time, it can wear down or become inflamed, generating friction, pain, and difficulty moving. In many cases, this process is accelerated by a lack of certain nutrients that help keep cartilage healthy and well lubricated. When the body stops receiving these substances, it loses the ability to regenerate and fight internal inflammation. And then, what was just mild discomfort can evolve into constant pain. Besides wear and tear, there's also the issue of blood circulation. Many elderly people face poor circulation problems, which means that blood, and consequently nutrients and oxygen, doesn't efficiently reach the extremities of the body. This contributes to muscle weakness, tingling, cramps, and that feeling of heaviness in the legs. Another relevant factor is the loss of muscle mass, common with aging, but which can be reduced with proper nutrition and specific activities. When the leg muscles lose strength, the body has to work harder to walk, and this overloads the joints. The result is even more pain. That's why diet plays a fundamental role. It can be a powerful ally or a dangerous obstacle. Many elderly people consume foods rich in sugars, refined flours, and bad fats, without knowing that these ingredients fuel inflammatory processes in the body. This inflammation is one of the main triggers of chronic pain. On the other hand, there are foods rich in antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and healthy fats that help fight inflammation, strengthen muscles and joints, and promote tissue regeneration. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in the next segment. But first, we need to understand why so many people continue to suffer even when trying to take care of themselves. One of the most common mistakes is the excessive use of anti-inflammatory and pain medications. Of course, they can be useful in moments of intense pain, but continuous use without guidance can bring serious side effects, such as problems in the stomach, kidneys, and even the heart. Additionally, these medications only mask the symptom. They don't treat the cause of the pain. Another frequent mistake is sedentarism due to fear. Many people, afraid of feeling pain or falling, stop moving. But the lack of movement further weakens muscles, reduces flexibility, and makes joints more rigid. In other words, the attempt to avoid pain ends up aggravating the problem. Poor nutrition is also a concerning reality. Many common diets among the elderly are repetitive, with few fresh foods, excess processed foods, and an insufficient amount of proteins, good fats, and essential micronutrients. This compromises the health of the entire organism, but especially affects the tissues responsible for locomotion. It's like trying to keep a machine running without oil and without maintenance. Over time, it stops, and the body is no different. Besides, there's a very common but dangerous thought, believing that feeling pain when walking is a normal part of aging. This thought makes many people accept pain as part of aging and stop looking for alternatives. But the truth is that, although body changes are natural, constant pain doesn't have to be. Let's think together about a very common situation. Imagine a lady who spends most of the day sitting, afraid of walking because she feels pain in her knees. She takes medicine for relief but doesn't change her diet. For lunch, she eats rice, beans, and a steak, but almost never puts salad or vegetables on her plate. In the afternoon, coffee with white bread and margarine. At night, a ready-made soup full of sodium and almost without nutrients. What happens to her body over time? It remains inflamed, weak, without stimulation, and without the necessary nutrients to improve. And this is the reality of thousands of people. The body keeps asking for help, but the help that comes isn't the right one. Now imagine if this same person started to include foods rich in omega-3, antioxidants, natural collagen. If she started walking, even if it was inside the house, with short but regular steps. If instead of just treating the pain, she started to strengthen the body from within, the transformation would be inevitable. And this isn't theory. According to a study conducted by a respected university in the health field, elderly people who included foods rich in omega-3 in their daily diet reported up to 40% reduction in joint pain after a few weeks. This without using medicine, just with balanced nutrition and simple monitoring. And omega-3 is found in accessible foods such as fish, seeds, and some vegetable oils. Another study showed that regular consumption of fruits rich in antioxidants, such as raspberry, strawberry, and blueberry, helped reduce inflammatory markers in the body, directly contributing to the improvement of mobility in elderly with arthritis. And the explanation is simple. These foods act by neutralizing inflammatory substances that accumulate in the body over time. They are like small soldiers fighting pain from the inside out. But unfortunately, due to lack of guidance or access to information, many people continue to ignore these natural resources and insist on solutions that only ease the pain for a few hours. You don't need to accept living with pain every day. You can change this with simple and effective actions. It may seem like it won't make a difference to change what you put on your plate or to take an extra walk around the house. But the truth is that the body responds to the right stimuli. It just needs a chance. Even at an advanced age, it's possible to recover part of the strength, mobility, and confidence. And this begins with knowledge. The first step is to understand what's causing the problem. The second is to stop repeating habits that only hinder. The third is to apply, gradually, new choices. And you're exactly on this path now. Perhaps throughout your life, you've never stopped to think about the connection between diet and pain when walking. But now that you know this, everything changes, because what seemed inevitable becomes avoidable. What seemed chronic can improve, and what seemed distant begins to come closer. The most important thing is to remember that it's not too late, that there is always time to start over, even if with small steps. In fact, small steps are what matter most in this phase, because they are the ones that lead you back to the freedom of walking without fear, without pain, with joy. Many people go through this and make these mistakes without realizing it. But relax, because in the next section, we're going to talk about what really works. You'll learn about the 4 foods that help most in this mission of walking with more lightness and comfort. You'll discover how to include these foods in your routine in a simple way, without complications. And you'll understand why they are being recommended by specialists in aging health. If you've made it this far, it's because you're ready to take this step. And what comes next could be the beginning of a new phase in your life. Now that you understand why so many people suffer with pain when walking and why medications don't always solve the problem, it's time for the most important part, knowing the foods that really make a difference. These are 4 simple, accessible, and effective foods that help relieve pain, strengthen joints, and bring lightness back to your steps. Believe it, this information can be a watershed moment in your routine. And the best part is that you won't need to drastically change your diet. Just gradually include these allies in your daily life, in your own way, at your own pace. Now tell me in the comments, where are you from, and if you identified with any of the habits we've discussed so far. This exchange space is very important. Many people will recognize themselves in your words, and you might end up helping someone else just by sharing your experience. Let's go to the first food. It might already be in your kitchen, extra virgin olive oil. This oil is a powerful source of good fats, especially omega-9, which has anti-inflammatory action. Regular consumption of olive oil helps lubricate joints and combat silent inflammatory processes that cause pain and stiffness. It's as if it works like an actual oil, facilitating movement. To include it in your routine, use olive oil to season salads, cooked vegetables, or even whole grain bread at breakfast. 1 tablespoon a day is enough to make a difference. Important: never heat olive oil too much because it loses its properties. Use it raw whenever possible. The second food is salmon. But if it's not accessible in your region, don't worry. Other fish rich in omega-3 also work very well, like sardines and mackerel. Omega-3 is one of the greatest allies of joints. It helps reduce inflammation, improves blood circulation, and can even decrease the morning stiffness that so many people feel. To include it in your diet, ideally consume these fish 2 to 3 times a week, baked, grilled, or in light preparations. If you're vegetarian, you can use chia or flaxseed, which are also sources of omega-3. 1 spoonful a day, mixed in yogurt, juice, or salad, already brings real benefits. If this made sense to you, share it with someone who also needs this information. It can make all the difference. Sometimes, it's precisely this kind of simple tip that helps a friend or relative break out of the cycle of pain. And you can be that bridge. Let's go to the third food, turmeric, also known as curcuma. This root is an extremely potent natural anti-inflammatory. Its active substance, called curcumin, has been studied by doctors and scientists around the world for its effect on relieving joint and muscle pain. Turmeric can be included in soups, broths, rice, or even in the famous golden milk, which is a drink prepared with warm milk, turmeric, black pepper, and a little honey. Black pepper, incidentally, is important to increase the absorption of curcumin by the body. A pinch a day is enough, and if you prefer, you can use it in capsules, as long as with professional guidance. The fourth food is collagen. But we're not talking about expensive or hard-to-find supplements. We're talking about foods that stimulate the natural production of collagen in your body, like natural gelatin made from beef or chicken bones, cow's feet, and homemade broths rich in cartilage. Collagen is the main structural protein in our body, and as the years go by, its production decreases dramatically. This directly affects the health of joints, skin, and muscles. Consuming foods that help in collagen production can improve joint elasticity, increase tissue firmness, and reduce the feeling of locking up when walking. A practical tip is to cook bones with vegetables and natural seasonings and use this broth in everyday preparations. These 4 foods, olive oil, fish rich in omega-3, turmeric, and natural sources of collagen, have the potential to transform your relationship with pain. But they are even more effective when combined with other simple care practices that are also part of this health journey. Drinking water throughout the day is one of these practices. Proper hydration keeps tissues flexible and helps circulation. A dehydrated body suffers more from inflammation and pain. Try to drink water upon waking, between meals and throughout the day, even if you're not thirsty. Avoid ready-made juices and sodas, which have too much sugar and don't truly hydrate. Moving your body is also essential. We're not talking about heavy exercises, but rather small movements that activate muscles and keep joints functioning. Light walks, gentle stretches, climbing up and down small steps, moving your ankles while sitting. All this helps prevent stiffness and improve circulation. If you have difficulties, look for videos with exercises for seniors or talk to a healthcare professional for safe guidance. Sleeping well is also part of the solution. During sleep, the body regenerates, produces important hormones, and recovers tissues. A bad night's sleep increases the sensation of pain the next day. Create a peaceful environment with little light. Avoid screens before bedtime and try to maintain a regular schedule. Quality rest has more impact on your health than many people imagine. And of course, avoid prolonged use of medications without supervision. When used incorrectly, they can mask symptoms but aggravate the cause. Always talk to a trusted professional before starting or maintaining any medication for a long time. Sometimes the body is asking for another type of care, not more medicine. You have the power to transform your body every day, even with small steps. And this begins with simple decisions, like what you put on your plate, the glass of water you choose to drink, the movement you make when you get up. Every choice counts, and all these small actions combined can completely change how you live. If you like content like this, click like, subscribe, and activate the bell to receive more health and wellness tips. Here you will always find a safe, welcoming space full of information that can make a difference in your life. Let's remember, olive oil helps lubricate and protect joints. Salmon and other fish rich in omega-3 fight inflammation. Turmeric acts as a potent natural anti-inflammatory, and foods that stimulate collagen strengthen the tissues that support your body. None of this is difficult, expensive, or impossible. These are accessible choices that can be made gradually, at your own pace, and results appear with consistency. The body responds, pain decreases, the pleasure in walking returns. You begin to feel freer, more willing, more in control of your routine. And if you want to solve this once and for all, check out the link we left here in the description with more detailed guidance. There, everything is organized for you to apply practically and start seeing results in your daily life without complications. It's not too late to take care of your body with affection. On the contrary, it has never been so important. Eating well is an act of self-love, and your body responds with gratitude. It responds with less pain, more balance, more lightness. And this changes everything. It changes how you move, how you feel, how you live. Remember, you are not alone, and there is always a possible path. Even if the steps are small now, the most important thing is that you are walking in the right direction. Each step without pain is an achievement. No matter how small it seems, it represents courage, care, and the desire to live better. Remember, every change begins with a decision. And by choosing to take care of your health, you are paving the way for lighter, more active, and happier days. Your journey begins now.